5. There you go.
Got it. Great. Thanks, Nathaniel. And again, welcome everyone. A few have showed up since we started a little bit earlier. Let me share my screen. We'll take a look at our agenda and see what we need to do here. I know we're probably going to have some ham site conference topics and a few things and some recent media hits. Well, maybe if we have time, we'll take a look at the pre-registration form I cooked up on the ham site test site. And we'll talk maybe about our QSP article a little bit. Is there anything else that somebody wants to add to the agenda while I'm here?
I can give a quick update on the ham site workshop registration.
Sure. Why don't you guys do that?
Okay. So I've been going through the lists of people who are coming and people that I think are coming. I'm estimating right now with kind of ballpark people I think are coming or are committed to coming that we're going to be on the order of like somewhere between 100 to 125 people. And I went through the budgets and I decided I was able to subsidize the registration costs for people who are paying their own way. So the registration costs are now much lower than they were before. So it's like $15 for Friday during the day, $20 for the banquet, $15 for Saturday during the day, and another $15 for the dinner. And basically that gets you all your food for Friday and Saturday. So hopefully that will, I think that'll help people out. And we're very fortunate we're able to provide a lot of funding to people who are, presenting and attending. So we also do have confirmation that the NSF program officer, who is in charge of the new GRAPE grant that we're on, and her boss is the person who's in charge of the old personal space weather station grant. She's going to be here. That's Dr. Tai-Yin Wang. Dr. Isaiah Shum, he's the NASA project scientist. He's going to be here. We have Dan Romanchik, KV6NU, and John Hayes, K7VE from ARDC. They're going to be here. So we have a lot of really good representation from the funding agencies. So I think that's really, really nice. I'm excited that they'll be able to see what's going on. I also think there might be someone from NASA who's working on doing some videos about HAMSI as well. So Joy Eng, I think she might be here. So got a lot going on.
Will those price adjustments be retroactive, or is it just for
They will be. No, they will be retroactive. So if you have already submitted and you've already paid, you will get a refund to your credit card. I'll say within the next month. We're working on it. You would think I've learned a lot of things about working at a university, and there's a lot of things you think should be simple, and then you find out that they're not, and there's just nothing you can do about it. And giving refunds on these credit cards is one of those things. So you have to like post it. It's not like walking into CVS and being like, can you exchange this thing? And they go scan and it goes, it's complicated. But yeah, so all the people who have already paid, they will get refunded so that your costs will be adjusted to the new price.
Nice. With everybody complaining about inflation these days, it's nice to see the prices when they go down. So everybody should be happy.
Yes.
That's a switch.
Yeah, we just gotta pass it on to the Federal Reserve, and then we'll see if it trickles downhill. Any other questions for Nathaniel on the conference?
The agenda is posted. If you see any errors, suggestions, corrections, please let me know. I see Aiden's on, so maybe we can talk about later in the call what Aiden's planning on doing for the workshop, because I think we said we would chat about that a bit at some point.
Yeah, I actually had a question. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So on the agenda, you have the workshop sessions, like each session has like 2 things. Are those one after the other or like in parallel?
They're in parallel.
Okay. So I'll have like a full hour then?
Yes.
Oh my. Okay.
If you don't want a full hour, if you'd like a half hour, There's other ways we can do this too, Aiden. Like if you just want to have like a tabletop demo where you're kind of out in the poster session and you kind of are there all afternoon. People come up, talk to you for like 5 minutes, you show them something and then they go somewhere else. We can do that sort of thing. If you'd like to
Okay.
only do a half hour, we can do that. There's a lot of flexibility.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else in the conference? All right, let me flip back to my agenda here, because otherwise I'll forget things. Okay, oh, yeah. A little bit of good news. A couple of times, Dr. Tony Phillips's name and his website has come up in our discussions the past few weeks. And with a little encouragement and some suggestions from Ed, WX2N, Dr. Phillips got back to me a few days ago and said he'd love to do an article about HAMSI and the festivals. And he'd get back to me in a few weeks with some interview questions that I could answer for him. And so we should see something on spaceweather.com in the not too distant future.
That's wonderful.
Yep. HAMSI's got a pretty good reputation, so it's actually pretty easy to make this stuff happen. The something I thought of, not sure if it would be helpful or not. Would it make sense to start gathering? We're starting to collect more and more media hits. I mean, we're on the QSO, the podcast with Neil. I know that just came out. Eventually, we'll have space weather thing. We'll have QST and other publications and stuff. Would it be helpful to have a page that lists that stuff so people can reference it?
Oh my gosh, yes. That'd be a huge help. Especially for people like me who have to write NSF and ARDC reports and tenure applications.
That's another one Ed was encouraged me on. He was saying more or less, so that's kind of a must do. So at least we'll agree on that.
That'd be
So.
incredibly helpful.
Okay, yeah, I'll start that and then we'll keep it maintained. That's no problem at all. Good, great. All right. Let's take a look then at the test site. I'll bring up, so this is, like I say, this is just our test site. Nothing's up, that's not it. Different, here it is. Our contest info page, and we talked about having a pre-registration form. Useful, of course, to gather information from hams and SWLs who plan to participate in the SEQP and the Gladstone Challenge. Information on participants and their stations will be used by the event organizers, I guess that's us, in the weeks prior to the eclipse to review station density and proximity to the eclipse path across North America. I think that's our goal, right? It should be. And I tried to come up with a pretty simple form because nobody likes long involved anything. Call sign is required, first, last name required. I made the email address optional just because some people are uncomfortable with that sometimes. Open to suggestions there. Ask them about which events they'll be in. Of course, there's state and city and state province, and also the grid square. I thought about lat long, but they really have to know their grid square if they're going to participate in any of the events. So I might as well just ask them up front.
Yeah.
And that makes it.
You can provide a link there to a grid square calculator. If they don't know your grid square, click here. So I know David LevineCentral.com has a very nice grid square calculator.
David Levine.
Yeah, I'll put the link in the chat. I always just go grid square calculator or grid square map in Google, and then it's always the first one that comes up. LevineCentral.com. I guess I don't know if his first name's Levine. It may be, or if his first name is David, it could be Aloysius or don't know. I knew a David. I think I knew a David Levine, which is why I said that. Where is my chat? I don't know where the chat went to.
Oh, that's easy to do. I can certainly take care of that.
There, I just put it in the chat.
Good, thanks. And then this is basically a free text paragraph, enter your operating plans and state some details. People can put as much or as little as they want in there. And,
Mhm.
as opposed to asking them a whole slew of 10 or 20 more questions that they may get frustrated with and not want to answer. But if,
Mhm.
hopefully that'll work for us. At least I gave them suggestions on modes and equipment, things that they're going to be using.
Yeah.
The last thing, and by no means am I saying we have to do this, but I was in learning mode and I figured out how to do this. But anyhow, I don't suspect we've had any problems with robots getting into our forms in the Hamside site and
Mhm.
people
I think what
filling
you
in.
should do is you should have a picture of a waterfall display with some CW scrolling across the screen. And you can be like, decode the call sign at 14.28 megahertz or 14.0, I don't know, 14.05 megahertz, something like that. Make sure it's actually in the CW band. And if they can't, and you know how you always have to have the audio option, you can have it come up and they have to like, work a pile up or something.
That's a couple of these I'd seen some suggestions to do like a math captcha, ask them what 2 + 2 = what, right? And I was going to go
Yeah.
with the square root of -1 and see what we got back for answers. But
I'm teaching communication systems class right now, so I'm all about complex exponentials. So have them do like Euler's equation and that sort of thing.
e to the -pi or something, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
But so
e to the pi I -1.
right. So is this a good idea or a bad idea? Or
This
should we
one.
just not worry about it unless we have a problem?
No, I think it's a good idea. In fact, I was at the West Palm Beach Club last night and actually talked about what we're doing. But they just changed their website, and actually, their way around what we're trying to do is also have a simple question, like what state is the club located in? So I mean, for us, it might be like, what celestial object covers the sun? Okay.
I think, but I kind of do that with the Hamsite Google group anyway.
Yeah.
Like if I tell people, please write a sentence or so about why you want to join, and
Yep.
anyone who writes anything about ham radio and that, I approve them, and anyone
You
who
get
doesn't
in,
write
right.
anything, they get kicked out. So I mean, you already have a bunch of questions in there. I don't think we're gonna get spammed on this, but
Yeah, that's fine. Like I said,
Yeah.
I've got to build this on the real site, so I'll just leave it out. No big deal.
yeah, I think you can leave it out. We don't want to annoy our audience.
Well, it's not an annoyance, but if you get any more than what you've got there, I'm going to have to break Maple out again and learn how to start it up.
All right, well, we'll keep it simple. We'll follow the KISS principle and go with what we've got here.
Do we need for the events? I guess a couple of things. Let's see, should Steve Serwin's TDOA event be on there?
I'd be glad to add it. Yeah, it's not mentioned anywhere else except for one sentence on the website. If we do that, I'd like to have some more explanation about it up there.
Right.
Which I could
Wasn't
get
that
off of-
part of? Isn't that part of
Look at that
GSSC?
a little bit more, because the more I think about it, the less it seems amenable to a random, here's a contact, here's one data hit. A lot of those aren't really going to be as useful as a methodical 2 guys slug it out for 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah,
I mean, if you really want these trends, I don't see how random contacts are going to help us a lot.
no, I agree with that. I'm thinking, how do you have enough people right now to do what you want to do, or are you trying to recruit more people, Steve?
We need to figure out how we're going to recruit those people. How should we solicit help?
I think that's where, so one possibility, probably one of the best ways to do it is to go put a email out on the Hamside listserv. There's almost 700 people on there already. And those are going to be some of the people that are going to be interested in doing the thing you're doing.
One of the reasons I did that particular poster was to help solidify those things in my mind.
Yeah.
what made sense and what didn't.
So I guess the question is, do you think you should be represented on this survey, or do you want to go recruit people in another way?
We could ask if they're interested in participating in something different, but it really wouldn't fall in line with all the other things that you're doing here.
Right.
But it would give another avenue for exposure.
Yeah, because you could put. Because is this all about just the SEQP and the GSSC, or is this? So this is
Well, right-
just for SEQP.
Right now, it's got those were the two things we had well-defined, and we had rules and an organization around them.
Yeah, Steve, how many people do you want for your thing?
More like, what type of people do we want? If we could get a dozen pairs,
Okay.
my gosh, that would be amazing.
Well, why don't we leave you off of here for now? Because I think if we're trying to find a dozen people who really know how to do the technical work you're trying to do, we may want to try to recruit them in a different manner than this particular website.
I agree.
And some of the ways we can do that, we can start off with the Hamsci listserv. We can probably reach out to the people who do the FMT. There's probably a way to get in touch with the FMT people. Those are probably the types of people you want to recruit, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Steve, what do you mean by pairs?
Well, two stations. One, I guess you could have one station talking to an SDR, although it's not exactly the spirit of ham radio.
Oh,
But-
that's right. This is your transmitting
Yeah,
a time.
it's not everybody listening to WWP,
reference.
although that would be useful too. But this is really,
Right.
if we could find pairs of stations that could, for example, pick a path that transected where the Eclipse was going to go, kind of like Steve Ryer's. Cool.
Well, wouldn't you have a few transmitters and many receivers?
Yes, that would work too.
Right.
In fact, in thinking about that, I was thinking about just finding some SDRs in different compass directions around from where I am and just pinging those.
What would you want somebody communicating like on FL Digi or WinLink just to check propagation on each every, say, 10 minutes? Is that kind of the idea?
Yeah, 10 minutes would be a beautiful repetition interval to profile this, because things happen pretty fast.
So you'd pick an operating mode like on FL Digi, maybe MFSK 32 or something like that.
No, this
And
has to be an analog mode.
Oh, okay.
Because what we're doing is transmitting an audio waveform. It's chirp is what it is. And I'm pretty sure sideband will work. I haven't run to ground what the effects would be if a receiver were 100 hertz off of where the transmitter was. And for a while I was thinking about using AM just for that reason. But if you're off a little bit in frequency, both those modes go through that error together. So it's not like you're adding an offset to one and not the other.
No, but if you're chirping, your timing is in the frequency of the chirp.
It is, exactly.
So if you're 100 hertz off, your timing is off.
Well, but the interference between the two chirps we're looking at, they both travel the same path. It's just that one took a little longer path than the other, and they're different by, a fraction of a millisecond.
Right.
But they both, if they're off in frequency, they're both off in frequency because they went through the path together. So it's not as bad as if one of them was off in frequency and the other one wasn't.
So each station would have to have an NTP protocol on his computer. Where
What is
they
that?
get, that's that network time protocol type thing where you use that Leo Bardner device
Well, you can-
for
You
crystal
can make use
oscillators.
any GPS with a pulse per second to set it.
But we're not attempting to do absolute timing here. That's exactly why that's what drove selection of this particular mode. This time difference of arrival is you don't need precise synchronization to UTC anything. It's completely agnostic as to what the actual time is. What you're looking at is the time difference of arrival of two modes.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, so no, and that's why it was picked this way, so that you didn't have to have synchronization with UTC top of second, and both stations had to do it, and you both had to subtract out what the delay is through your DSPIF and all that kind of stuff that I had to fool with that timing study where it did matter. With this particular experiment, it doesn't matter. A station transmits a chirp, and you have to pick a path, and this is important. You have to pick a path that's far enough apart and low enough in frequency that you can support both a 1-hop and 2-hop mode. And of course, that's going to be a frequency that's less than the MUF, but bigger than the critical frequency, somewhere in between those two. So I'm thinking maybe 160, 80, and 40 meters are good choices. And you have to have a path long enough. The issue is that the 2-hop mode needs a higher angle, and high angles and high frequencies don't mix. They don't get returns. So you have to have a low enough angle that the path will actually return that mode. So general recommendation, I said path more than 500 kilometers and below 40 meters and below. We're just now starting to see mode splitting on 10 megahertz WWV, which just wasn't there during the low years. And it's because at 10 megahertz, at least between South Texas and Colorado, you couldn't get a 2-hop mode. It wouldn't support that high angle.
So getting back to recruiting participants, I mean, one obvious opportunity is going to be at the Hamsci conference.
Exactly.
Perhaps after the conference, we've got this mentioned in the Hamsci Eclipse page. We could link this to a page with your poster on it, Steve, because that gives a lot of the details, and then have a contact Steve button, and we may get lucky on a few hits that way.
Yes. I was kind of thinking along those lines when I did that poster. And it's one of the reasons I did it, was to try and see if we could elicit some interest. This is not going to appeal to everybody, right? This is kind of a nerdy thing to do. But a lot of people like that. Like
You're
me.
in the right spot.
We are a nerdy hobby.
Yeah. I mean,
You
I'd be willing to put
you might get some people wondering if you send CW with a chirp.
Oh, I do that all the time. I have a couple of command sets over here on the other bench.
Because chirp to me is something that you use to program a Yaesu or to clone
Yes.
it.
Yes, that's a good software program. It works too.
Well, is there a site for the chirp that you're talking about that is sort of the reference? Because when I first heard it, I thought, well, that's CW, and now it's Yaesu, and now it's something totally different.
He means a scanning audio tone.
Yeah, it's literally a frequency chirp, like a train whistle and Doppler, only it's much faster.
What generates that, and where do you find the how-tos for it?
Christina and I have been working on that, Christina Collins, and she computer generates these chirps. And at the very end of my poster paper is a link where you can go download it.
All right.
I can put the poster link in the chat if you want me to, Steve.
Sure.
Yeah. It's basically a sweep generator.
Yeah, but it's 100 kilohertz per second or 100 hertz per millisecond.
Right.
Only
I
lasts.
mean, you could
so it's
generate
fast.
it with a sweep generator.
You can, but we wanted be repeatable and precise and
Right.
something that anybody can download and feed out of a wave recorder.
I'm just pointing out something that old geezers like us might actually have some experience with.
Well, I've got some of those generators right here in my lap, fellow geezer.
I put the link to your poster in the chat.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Yeah, actually exposure during the HAMSci workshop would be a good place to get some help.
I agree.
Yeah, because in addition to the 100 or so in-person participants, we don't have any idea how many virtual we're gonna have. So there's a whole other audience out there.
And I do think, Steve, a good way to recruit people might be to put an email out to the HAMSci list and say, hey, look, I'm planning on doing this. I'm looking to recruit, a handful of people who have these technical skills. See what you get back.
Okay, I'll get with you later and learn how to do that.
We just had 10 people join the HAMSci listserv in the past day. So the numbers are increasing. I just approved 10 people right now. I think Mike Lombardi had an article in QST this month about the stability of WWV. And I'm guessing that might be what's driving up this increase in membership. Because the last couple of days I've seen, usually I get like, a couple of requests a week, but last couple of days it's been like 10 a day or something like that.
Steve, I've got a lot more free time than Nathaniel too, so, and I've been helping with that HAMSci listserv a little bit. So if you want some advice on how to do that, or whenever you want to get together on Zoom or something, I'd be glad to do that too.
Oh, that'd be great. Thank you, Gary. I'll take you up on that.
Okay. Okay, well, good. That gives us a plan on how to proceed. One on the list server and two at the conference and three with our website post conference. So that gives us three options there. So awesome. Okay. Anything else on TDOA? Okay. All right, the only other thing I had, it's the Aiden, we've got your stuff covered. We talked about the QST article, wrapping up the conference, and I'm gonna start. If anybody wants to help or jump in on work on that thing is fine, but I was gonna at least start putting some notes together, but I figure we need a working title. And I assume the most obvious thing is our conference title, so. I assume that if we can at least get started with that and let the QST editors do what they will with us. But that would give me a chance to also, as I'm thinking about taking notes and whatnot during the conference next month. So that's where we'll start with that. Okay, that's all I had. Anybody else want to bring anything up? Our last 25 minutes or so.
I think it's looking really good. I have a bunch more logistics. I have a whole email box full of various logistics I need to take care of for different things, but I think I'm really happy with how it's going. I now have 3 invited talks at Dayton Hamvention too. So I'm going to be speaking at Contest University in the Antenna Forum. And then I just got invited to be a speaker at the Flex Radio Banquet too. And they said that that's a 2-night thing. So I guess you get to pick what night. I don't understand how that works. So I've never done the Flex Radio Banquet.
Okay, one other thing that I do want to promote is tonight, the WWV Amateur Radio Club, since we were talking about Mike Lombardi. Mike will actually be one of the speaker at the WWV ARC meeting tonight. So I just put the website for the club in there. It's 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, so that'll be 8 p.m. here in Cleveland in the East. I guess that's 0100 Zulu. But Mike is supposed to be talking about all things WWV and open to questions too. And I know people from the club have been submitting questions beforehand. So if you've got an interest in reading Mike's article in QST and hearing him speak, or over the web, here's your chance. Okay,
Between astronomy and ham radio, I've got something at 7, 8, and 9 tonight.
your free time is out of this world, David.
As, what was it? As a Carl Litzel Schwab told me the other day, he said, the ARRL is certainly keeping me off the streets.
Yeah, I know Ward's been busy too with his publications and things he's got going on, so, but that's
Oh
great.
my
That
God.
to me tells me the hobby is healthy, right? So
Yes, yes.
Yep.
we're all sitting around twiddling
Oh.
thumbs, it would be bad.
All we can try to do is be whelmed and gruntled.
Gary, quick question from Nick.
Yes, Nick.
Hi. The presentations and the posters and so forth, like we've been assigned what we're doing. Should we be sort of pre-presenting them to the group here or to some individual to just sort of say, that looks good? Or is it just going to be try it on the night?
I think
You are more than welcome to, if you want to come up with a draft of your talk and you want to do a dry run here, show us some slides, we'll be happy to give you some feedback before the actual conference.
Yeah, okay. This is just, like this is not something I've done personally with Hamsci before. And, it's not so much I'm worried about, sort of making myself look a fool, but I don't want to sort of, make Hamsci look a fool.
Yeah.
You get me?
Yeah, no, I
So-
think that's a good question. There's no requirement to do so, but I think we try to be helpful. So
Mhm. Yeah.
if you'd like to show.
Okay,
what you're
well,
gonna say.
obviously I do, yeah, okay, I don't obviously have something ready to go right now, but, I've done the abstract, of course, but the actual presentation is still a work in progress. But yeah, okay, I'll get hold of you, Gary, then, when I have it ready and, maybe we can, or at least, a rough draft of it, and maybe we can sort of have people sort of do a comment on it or something like that. And, I just thought I'd bring the topic up just in case other people feel in a similar position.
No, that was a good point. And yet, for sure, considering the conference is only 3 or 4 weeks away, whenever you're ready, Nick, we'll drop it right into the agenda and take care of it that week, of course. So
Yeah, okay, good show. Thank you.
okay, if that's it, we'll end early and we'll see everybody next Thursday and have fun on the bands. In the meantime, stay safe, be well.
Gary, I just asked, do you have to be a member of the WWV club to get the Zoom link?
That's a good question. I believe it's shareable. I thought that was the comments I got back from Dave Schwartz.
Okay, it says to get the link, sign into the web page, but I guess you have to be a member to sign in.
Let me see if I can find that maybe on my other computer, if you want to hang on real quick.
All right.
I would guess their meetings start on time.
Well, we've got a little bit of business to take care of, but not too much from what I understand, so.
Yeah, it also says that the online registration form doesn't work.
Dave's a good friend of Hamsci, so I can't imagine anybody on this call getting turned away, so
Right.
let's see. Let me type the meeting ID in here. Sorry, I don't have a link, but I can give you the ID number, and that we can always do it the hard way. It's 604-425-3389, passcode 260346. Okay,
Thank you.
yep, you're welcome. All right, with that, 73 all.
73.
Have a good one.
Thanks, everybody.
73s.
23s.